Welcome, and thank you for trying GPS2CAD. This video is one of a series, and this one covers how to set the preferences properly in this program. The first thing you need to do when you're working with GPS2CAD is to set your project preferences. This is done by selecting File and Preferences, which takes us to a new window. This first tab is where you select the output grid. Remember, GPS points come in as latitude and longitude, and GPS2CAD converts them to an X and Y format that CAD programs understand. This format, or grid datum, is what is selected here in the output grid tree. The program defaults to UTM NAD 27, which is fine in most cases. You can also select state plane coordinates as well as hundreds of others from around the world. For now, I'll just use the defaults. The second tab includes the linear and position units. The first tree view is for horizontal and vertical units, and I'll use the default settings of international feet. The tree on the right selects position or angular units, which defaults to decimal degrees, which I find easiest to work with overall. The third tab is where you set up the GPS unit. Simply select the make of the unit you have and the COM port it's connected to. The older model Garmins are available as a selection, and they use a serial cable connection. Actually, I don't think they're available anymore. The newer Garmins use a USB cable, and when they're connected, they show up as a mass storage device. In other words, you see them as a drive letter in Windows Explorer. Fortunately, this is the trend, and even if you have another brand of GPS unit, such as a Magellan or a DeLorme, this program may still connect to it fine in a mass storage mode. The second selection on this tab is for the COM port. In most cases, USB port is best. On the next tab, we find the first of the plot settings. This is where we find all the settings for data going into the CAD file. First, and most importantly, is the CAD program you are using. You can choose between AutoCAD, TurboCAD, and DoubleCAD. Next are the plot line settings, which are used when the program plots a polyline between two points. You can select both line layer and line color. I'm using the defaults. Last down this tab are the point settings, which set the point properties when plotted in a CAD drawing. Layer and color settings are pretty self-explanatory. The point style varies with the CAD program that you've selected, but in AutoCAD, this setting corresponds to the PD mode setting of the drawing. The last tab contains important settings if you decide to insert blocks for your points. Block layer is self-explanatory. Block scale is used to size the block properly. I usually start with a scale of 10 and adjust as necessary. The attribute checkboxes let you select what information will be displayed with the blocks when they're inserted. As a minimum, you should include the identifier. Once you're done with these settings, simply click the Save button and you will return to the main window. But there's a note of caution, and it shows in this message box. If you had points in the grid when you open the preferences, and you change the output grid from what it was when the points were brought in, you should get the points again from the GPS unit. For example, if the points that show in the grid were brought in at the default translation of a UTM NAD 27 grid, and you're changing that, let's say, to state plane coordinates, the points will not be retranslated. They need to be re-imported from the GPS unit. And that's all there is to setting the preferences in GPS2CAD. Be sure to view the other support videos found at GPS2CAD.com.